how he sees 2026 playing out. Professor John Mearsheimer rejoins Uncensored. Great to have you back.
Glad to be here, as always, Piers.
I would say Happy New Year, but it's been so crazy the first 2 weeks. I'm not sure that happy is quite the right word. Do you feel happy about what's happening?
No, I share your sentiments, although I would note to you that 2025 is not that much than 26. And you can see these first few weeks as being part of a seamless trend going back to when President Trump moved into the White House almost a year ago.
Do you sense, as we are seeing the beginning of the end of the conventional world order that was established after World War II?
I do. I think that Trump is a radical president, both in terms of domestic politics and foreign policy. But let's focus on foreign policy, of course. I think he uses language that investors would have even countenanced using. When he dismisses international law and says that he's pretty much free to do anything he wants on the international stage, there are no checks on him. This is the kind of rhetoric that none of his predecessors would have used, and for good reasons, in my opinion. Then when you look at the tariffs, no one has employed tariffs in the aggressive and extensive way that he has. Furthermore, if you look at what's happening on Ukraine, it's a fundamental break from the Biden's policy. And when you talk about Ukraine, you're not only talking about U.S.-Russia relations, where it's upside down, but you're also talking about U.S.-NATO relations, where he's turned things upside down. And then if you come to the Western Hemisphere, he's obviously put his gun sights on. He's threatened to take the Panama Canal back. He's threatened to make Canada the 51st state. And we're talking these days about whether or not he's going to invade Greenland and make it part of the United States. To take it a step further, he has used military force since taking office in a remarkably liberal way. By my count, he's used military force against 7 different countries. And he gets away with it in large part because he does it in a very light way. He uses limited military force. He uses it quickly. He doesn't get bogged down anywhere around the world. And furthermore, with regard to regime change, at first it looked like he was not going to do regime change because he promised that when he was running as a candidate. But if you look at what he's doing, he's quite deeply engaged in regime change. I think this whole business in Iran is basically a major league American-Israel regime change operation. Same thing in places like Venezuela. And he does it in a very different way than we have in the past. He's not interested in using boots or employing boots on the ground to have regime change. Like we did in Afghanistan, like we did in Iraq, and assorted other places. He likes to do regime change on the cheap. Furthermore, interested, once he does regime, in creating a liberal democracy with the new regime. Previous regimes were willing to put boots on the ground, and they were willing to topple a regime on the guarantee that they would be able to put in place a liberal democracy. But he doesn't care about fostering liberal democracy. In a very important way, he's interested in doing regime change on the cheap. And that's a fundamental change.
Here we go again.
For the cameras, before the ceremony is made, every detail is chosen. From Amazon MGM Studios comes Melania. This new film takes you inside the 20 days leading up to the 2025 presidential inauguration through the eyes of the First Lady herself. where fashion isn't just style, it's strategy. Witness the image-defining decisions made behind closed doors, a celebration of duty and glamour. Melania, only in theatres, January 30. If you're a fan of epic fantasy, Arthurian legend, or just epic storytelling, I have some good news for you. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, is the Daily Wire's new 7-part cinematic series, and it's so good, it will shock you. It's a top-quality reimagining of the King Arthur legend, which follows a young Merlin in a Britain torn apart by warring factions.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I know see one idea there. And then a robot on what's it be that name? Lucifer. But wherever you is welcome. You are watching history unfold before your own very eyes. Yeah? Now only here you go to hear and direct the way it's unfolding. No propaganda, nothing. That is because we forecasted. We said pretty much say this is how the world is going to go. But those who dated us here are cheering us all down. So from the beginning of Mishama's Erexpon, you can tell that, hey, this is how they want it to go. Literally quoting Shakespeare, there's method to the madness. That's pretty much what he's saying. You might disagree with how Trump is doing his thing, but I support the reason he's doing it. That's literally what Mishama is saying. So, and I've been saying this. Anybody who see the Trump is just a certain act of character. Y'all are just missing the point. Y'all are missing the point. Y'all are missing the whole play. Everything that this man talk about, either outrageous, jokingly, foolish, however you want to classify, is actually acting on them. That's how the policies goes. And those who actually read the 2020 project 2025, we understand exactly. We'll not be surprised. And if you are a customer of this platform, I don't think you'll be surprised too. Everybody say, "Oh, Trump is making mistakes." Nah, they were never a threat to the United States in the first place. Nobody. They are not fighting anybody. America is expanding, but at the same time, trying to curtail China from taking over, establishing an hegemony over the Southeast Asia, which is normal. Because by the time you allow somebody become hegemony of his region, your own just a matter of time they'll take you out. So this time around, they are doing it very well, swift and sweet. They are not ready to. They are ready to go back and forth. Now coming on Greenland, now people who don't know history, now they talk about Greenland, Denmark, European nation, man, leave those toothless bulldogs in the first place. You have to go back to history. A man called Woodrow Wilson. That's why I know like Pat Otomi. That's his hero. A man called Woodrow Wilson, their president. You see, the U.S. Virgin Island that we know today was formerly Denmark territory. So they were also held at gunpoint. You either sell her or we take them. They settled for $20. Right? We'll come back to all that. Let's enjoy this interview. So what Trump is doing is just act of the deal, as they will say. But Greenland is already part of American territory. Canada is next. I know they talk all this for over almost 2 years now. People thought I was crazy. Just like they thought Trump was crazy.
The very unpopular leader of the country, but he's let the regime stay in place with the vice president assuming control. And from all reports, she's decided to be much more compliant with the American view of how Venezuela should behave than Maduro. And it looks like, as things stand, the regime may just take over, albeit with different leadership. I mean, is that even regime change?
No, it's not regime change. I think Iran, we were shooting for regime change. I think you're correct that what we did in Venezuela is we decapitated the regime. We removed the president. We helped promote the vice president to the presidency. But we want to keep that regime in. We just want it to dance to our tune. And what we're doing, Piers, is we're using our tremendous economic leverage to get the regime to act the way we want it to act, which means to help us exploit Venezuela's oil.
But if Trump can do that, Professor, in a way where there was no loss of American military life in that operation, incredibly successful military operation, whatever you think of the merits behind it, if you can do that and you can get a better leader in place who's not as against the interests of the United States as the predecessor, and the predecessor was hugely unpopular, facing indictments that were brought on him by Democratic President Biden with a 50 million bounty on his head and so on. If you put it all together, I'm not seeing many tears shed for Maduro, either in or out of Venezuela. If it ends up with a better leadership from the American perspective, what's the harm there? I mean, you talk about the way Trump goes about these things. Could it end up that history would judge that as actually a pretty smart, pretty surgically precise shift of power, perhaps, but one that suited everybody?
Well, a couple points. You want to remember that Trump is talking about, and these are his words, running Venezuela. This was not an operation that was simply designed to get rid of Maduro. Once Maduro's gone, he is interested in running Venezuela. And he's actually been talking about the fact that he is the de facto leader of Venezuela.
But doesn't what he really mean by that? Look, I don't know, but doesn't what he's really saying is we've now got control of the vice president, who's now the new leader, and as long as she behaves herself and does the kind of stuff that we're happy with, then that's fine. Isn't that what he means by running the country? In other words, exercising a lot of influence over the leadership of that current regime to dance to the American tune?
No, there's no question about that. The question you have to ask yourself is whether you think he's going to get away with that.
Well, he might, because what they've seen is, all these people, it seems to me, are power mad. In Venezuela's case, probably pretty corrupt. And they're now seeing that the option is they get taken off in the middle of a night to a prison cell in the United States from which they may never re-emerge.
I think what you're forgetting, Piers, is the power of nationalism. The idea that Venezuelans are going to tolerate President Trump coming in and running their country and stealing their oil is, in my opinion, not going to happen. There will be huge resistance over time. You want to remember, going back to Iraq, that shortly after we toppled Saddam Hussein from power, George W. Bush, landed on an aircraft carrier, and he declared mission accomplished. You remember that?
Yeah.
And when I listen to you talk now, you sound like George W. Bush landing on that aircraft carrier. From your point of view, mission accomplished.
Well, no, I don't actually believe that. I don't
ahead.
Actually believe it is mission accomplished. I think it really depends how it plays out. It just seems to me that when Trump says something like, we're going to run Venezuela, it may be that in his head, the way that manifests itself is they will just control the way the leadership now behaves on paying them.
How stupid can somebody talk something, but you are saying, oh, how in his head is not how he said. Like, you the crazy. Is not Trump is not interpreting something. It's not interpreting anything. But he said I'm going to do. But from your own, for some reason, I don't know. Listen to this again. Maybe maybe I'm tripping. Oh, what's going on? What's going on?
Time. You want to remember going back to Iraq.
It really depends how it plays out. It just seems to me that when Trump says something like, we're going to run Venezuela, it may be that in his head, the way that manifests itself is they will just control the way the leadership now behaves on pain of removing them and sticking them in a cell in New York.
You see how how ridiculous that sounds? Somebody said this is what I'm going to do, but you for your head and interpreting what that means. I don't know.
Like George W. Bush landing on that aircraft carrier. From your point,
It really depends how it plays out. It just seems to me that when Trump says something like, we're going to run
When Trump says something, that's what Trump says.
Venezuela, it may be that in his head,
he may be thinking in his head. Imagine, just think about that. Maybe in his how does that even make sense?
way that manifests itself is they will just control the way the leadership now behaves on pain of removing them and sticking them in a cell in New York.
it's not that easy to do regime change. As you correctly pointed out, he did not do regime, simply decapitated the regime.
Right, but he's got a more compliant
you wanna
leader of the
understand-
regime in place, which is, in a way, going back to what you said earlier, it's a much simpler, easier form of changing a regime
Then why are you not trying
by
to-
keeping it in place, but having a leader with very different views of how it should be run.
You say that he has a much more compliant regime in place. How do you know that? How do you
Well, I'm
know
only
what
basing
that
that.
regime is
I'm
gonna
basing
look
that.
like?
I'm basing that on the reports that I've read from authoritative media,
Again,
which suggests that she.
Again, this is the-
well,
this
hang
is
on. I mean,
mission
I might be
accomplished
completely
rhetoric.
deluded. The reports I've read say that the
You are
vice
indeed-
president
you are not just
has indicated
deluded,
to Donald Trump and to the United States administration
Anything like that.
that she's going to be very different to Maduro. To the extent where people think she's gone so far that way, was she involved in the operation to get Maduro out in the first place? We don't know. But in other words, I'm only basing that on the reports I've read. And it may be it doesn't play out like that. But if it does play out like that, I'm being hypothetical, then it seems to me a very surgical form of regime
And that's it.
leadership change. It's not even a regime change because it's the same regime. You're changing the leadership, which may then have a very pro-American benefit in terms of the way the regime then conducts itself.
I don't think that's going to happen. And the United States has a rich history of trying to do regime change and run the politics of other countries around the world, countries like Venezuela, and it fails in almost every case. You remember we were in Afghanistan for 20 years. We did regime change and we thought it would end up happily. We lost after 20 years. Just think about what happened in Iraq. The idea that a bunch of gringos are going to come down into Venezuela and steal their oil, and we're going to get away with that? I would not bet much money on that.
It's going to be interesting because he doesn't believe in putting boots on the ground. I mean, he believes in flying a few boots in on choppers, and maximum impact, very little involvement, and get the hell out of there, which is, as you said, a very different way of going about this. But it's a very interesting way of going about it.
But look, you want to remember that the reason that we put boots on the ground in the past when we did regime change was in large part because we thought that was essential to run the politics of the country that we were dealing with. The question you have to ask yourself is what happens if the new president, President Rodriguez, does not dance to our tune? What are we going to do then? How does this work out? How do you get Ms. Rodriguez to dance to your tune when she resists and all sorts of other people in Venezuela resist? How do you exploit the oil industry if you have political instability in Venezuela, if you don't have cooperation from the government?
Well,
and the answer is you don't. And
well, it was interesting that you mentioned Rodriguez because Rodriguez stated governments around the world are simply shocked that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is the victim and target of an attack of this nature, which undoubtedly has Zionist undertones. What did you make of that?
I don't think the Zionist dimension matters very much here. If we're talking about Iran, it's the Israelis and the Americans. They're a tag team in Iran, and they're doing everything to foment regime change there. But I think with regard to Venezuela, this is pretty much an all-American operation. This is not to say the Israelis might not be helping on the margins, but this is the United States. This is the Trump administration in action.
Is there a danger that people that have a distrust and dislike of Israel end up blaming it for absolutely everything? And let's come to Iran here, because I'm seeing a lot of, I think, moral hypocrisy and double standards and cowardice, frankly, that a lot of the people who have been so vocal, either by joining marches or Hollywood stars or wherever it may be, big media figures, racing to be front and center in supporting the Palestinians, for example, in Gaza, have been notable by their silence about the Iranian protesters risking their lives, quite literally, for freedom and democracy. Now, it may well be, I'm sure it is, that obviously it suits Israel and America that this uprising is happening. Obviously, they would like it to be successful and that the Ayatollah gets removed and the mullahs are gone. I'm sure they would like that. And I'm sure that they're doing everything they can to promote it. But that doesn't mean that there isn't already an organic uprising going on, that the people of Iran have had enough after 47 years of this religious rule, and they want to change. Those two things can be true at once, right?
Let me ask you a question, Piers. Don't you think it's quite that Israel and the United States, which have been deeply involved in executing a genocide in Gaza, think about that, a genocide in Gaza, are now making a lot of noise about how terrible the Iranian is treating the protesters? Isn't this remarkable hypocrisy in your mind?
Well, they're very different circumstances, because what you have in Iran is Iranian.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Well, they are different circumstances, aren't they? In Iran, you have an uprising not dissimilar to what we've just seen in Syria, actually, which ended up toppling Assad very quickly, with Syrian people leading that, to the extent that Putin just disappeared, because he could feel that this was going to happen. And I feel, I hope on behalf of the Iranian people that they're successful. But I don't see a comparison happened in Gaza. In Gaza, but notwithstanding the history of the conflict there, you had on October the 7th, 2023, you had one of the worst terror attacks of modern times, with 3,000 Hamas terrorists causing total mayhem across the border in Israel, murdering 1,200 people, kidnapping 250-odd people, including a baby, a Holocaust victim, and so on, taking these people back into depravity in Gaza. And then you've seen Israel perpetrate a retaliatory attack on Hamas, which I think had gone until the ceasefire way too far. I think that they broke a lot of laws themselves in terms of starving the populace in Gaza, in terms of just killing way too many civilians, killing so many journalists, banning international media from getting in. So many things that they did which I didn't agree with at all. But I don't see a comparison to what we're seeing in Iran. Do you?
Piers, I'm shocked at your rhetoric. In the past, when we have talked, you have readily recognized that the Israelis are committing genocide in Gaza.
I've said I believe it constitutes a genocide. I think that you've heard genocidal language from people like Smodrich and Ben-Gvir, but I don't think it can be constructed as a genocide because I don't think people who actually wage a genocide are interested in doing ceasefires, which we've now had for, thank God, quite a few weeks and months. Why would you if you're waging an actual genocide against a populace?
So what do you call it? Mass murder?
I would call it a form of ethnic.
What's the phrase that you use to describe what's going on?
I have phrased it as
in Gaza.
I believe it's been a form of ethnic cleansing, but I've not gone as far as saying it's a genocide.
You don't think it's mass murder?
I think that the Israeli argument about calling it mass murder is that they believe they are responding to defend their people from actual genocidal maniacs, Hamas, who are wedded to the destruction of Israel and the death of all Jews, and showed on October the 7th that they intend to do just that. And I think that my argument with the way Israel's respond is that the response was completely disproportionate, went way too far. And like I said, they've broken a number of laws in the way that they responded. But I have not actually categorized it as a genocide, not least because no state has ever been found guilty of waging a genocide as a state. I understand.
I'm actually shocked at your rhetoric. I can't believe that you don't recognize that what the Israelis, with assistance from the Americans, have done in Gaza is a genocide, or if not a genocide, an instance of mass murder. And when they, the Israelis and the Americans, criticize the Iranian government for using violence against Iranian protesters, that doesn't represent hypocrisy of the first order.
Well, the analogy would be if the protesters had woken up one day and they had murdered well over 1,000 people in the regime, 6-hour period, and the regime responded by killing a large number of the people who perpetrated that act, it would be a different argument. But that's why I don't think there's a comparison to be made.
So it would be okay if, given the scenario you just described, it would be okay if the Iranian government engaged in mass murder against the protesters who killed a good number of government officials.
No.
That's the argument you're making?
No, that's not the argument. No, because that's not what's happened.
No, I understand it's not what's happened. You were putting forth a hypothetical example. And
well,
I think
you were
sense.
putting the hypothetical, which you think it's hypocritical of the Americans and Israelis to criticize the Iranian regime for targeting the protesters. And I'm saying they're two complete situations. I don't actually think that's necessarily hypocrisy. You know, Israel was responding to one of the worst terror attacks of modern times. America is its main ally in the Middle East, and it has supported it. I've been heavily critical, as you know, of the way Israel, in the last year in particular, has prosecuted the war against Hamas. I think way too many civilians have been killed. I think some of their cabinet have talked like genocidal maniacs. I completely accept that. I have categorized it in my mind as a form of ethnic cleansing, that they want to displace people like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, as many Palestinians out of Gaza as they possibly can. But for a genocide to be committed, just according to the way a genocide is articulated, you would have to have an intent to kill all the Palestinians. I don't think that has been what we've been witnessing. Do you?
Yes, I think this is clearly a case of genocide. All of the major human rights organizations in the world, including B'Tselem, which is an Israeli group, has said that it's a genocide. The United Nations set up a special international commission to study this issue. They categorized it as a genocide. All sorts of scholars of the Holocaust, like Omar Bartov, and scholars who study genocide have said it is a genocide. And as I said to you before, if you don't want to call it a genocide, I think you have to at least admit that it's mass murder. And one other point on this, nobody denies that the Palestinians in Gaza attacked the Israelis on October 7th. And almost everybody agrees that the Israelis had a right to retaliate, to defend themselves. That's not the issue here. The issue is what they did in terms of that retaliation. And again, I believe the evidence is overwhelming that it's a genocide, and I think you're making light of that. And I think that that's a bad thing to do.
I'm not making light of it. I just have not used that word. I don't think that it is a correct assessment of what we've seen. Now, listen, you're a very expert man in history and world affairs, and if you believe it is, I absolutely respect that. I know a lot of people have said it's a genocide. A lot of my guests have tried to get me to say it is a genocide. I have said I believe what we've been looking at is a form of ethnic cleansing. I think the desire of many in that very hard-right Israeli government is the Palestinian people from Gaza and from the West Bank. But that's a form of ethnic cleansing. I do think their response to October the 7th went way over the top, and they killed way too many civilians. I know all their arguments that Hamas hid amongst all the civilian population. I know all that. I'm sure that a lot of that is true. But a lot of the stuff they did, I think, has crossed the line and broken laws. I just personally do not think it reached the threshold of genocide. But I respect the right of other people like you to think it did.
I actually think you're minimizing the horrors of Gaza, and I'm actually quite surprised. But I want to switch to gears for a second and make another point. You talk as if these protests in Iran are simply due to the Iranians' dissatisfaction with the government, and that it has nothing to do with the United States.
No, I didn't say that.
The reason
I
these
didn't say
people
that.
are so dissatisfied.
I said the two things can be true at once. It can be true that America and Israel have a vested interest in this regime being toppled and are very happy to see the protesters rising up against it. And it may well be that they have Mossad on the ground and they've got American intelligence people on the ground. I'm sure all of that can be true as well. I'm not saying they're not involved at all, but I do happen to think that the overarching motivating factor for this uprising is the people of Iran have had enough of the state of this country under 47 years of very autocratic control. We've had enough of it.
I don't think that's the major reason that they've had enough. The major reason they've had enough is because of the state of the Iranian economy. And what has happened here is that over time, with economic sanctions, we have wrecked the Iranian economy. We are principally for driving these protests. People are protesting the state of the Iranian economy, which is in dire straits, in large part because of American sanctions. Had there been no American sanctions, there would be no protests today.
But what about the appalling human rights record of this Iranian regime for 47 years? The appalling repression of women, the appalling repression of its people, the political prisoners, the way they treat their people.
I'm not defending people. I'm just telling you, I think that how their people is playing a small part in causing these uprisings today.
Really? How do you know? How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because if you read virtually all the news accounts coming out of Iran where people are talking to Iranians, it's quite clear that it's the economy that's driving the train here.
That's not the only. That's not the only reason
on my part, or a controversial argument. It's not the only reason, but it's the major reason.
Well, you think
all of the variants.
Your assessment is it's the major reason. My assessment, talking to Iranian people about this, is it's a whole series of reasons, but one of them, and one of the, it seems to be the key motivating factor, is the appallingly repressive side of this regime on their life. If you go back to life in Iran in 1975 and compare it to today, it is chalk and cheese. It's become a dark, depressing, repressive regime with extreme religious autocracy leveled against the people. And yes, the economy is in a terrible state, but that's not just down to sanctions. And the sanctions are as a direct result of the way the Iranian regime has behaved, particularly in the Middle East, where it's sponsored terrorism through the Houthis, through Hezbollah, through Hamas. It's been one of the main organs for all the region. ever since it came into power.
Here's what you're missing is that the previous regime, we're talking about going back to 1975 when the Shah was in control, the previous regime was repressive. It was hated by the population. And the reason you got a revolution in 1979 and you got Khomeini in charge was because Iran was such a repressive regime under the Shah. I agree. The regime under Khomeini is repressive. My view is that's the Iranians' business. It's not your business or my business to go in to Iran and rearrange the politics of Iran. I believe in sovereignty. I don't like the idea of countries coming into the United States and interfering in our politics, and I'm sure you as a Brit don't want other countries interfering in British politics. The same basic message.
Do you feel that way about the way Vladimir Putin's interfere with Ukrainian politics and life?
I think that Vladimir Putin went into Ukraine, as you know, because NATO was threatening to bring Ukraine.
Yeah, but he's interfering directly.
Alliance.
He's interfering directly in the politics of his neighbouring country. By your argument, you've just expressed to me, you should be against that.
No, I think there are certain circumstances where you do that. I understand that full well. I understand that when we went to war against Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan in World War II, we were going to end up doing regime change once we won the war. You do that on occasion. But the idea that a country like Iran, which is no threat to the United States, or a country like Venezuela, which is no
Iran
threat
is
to the
no
United
threat to the United States.
should. No, it's not. Why is it a threat to the United States?
Well, maybe because the Ayatollah has repeatedly threatened the United States publicly.
He can repeatedly threaten the United States till he's blue in the face. Who cares? The question is, does he have the military capability to do harm to us?
Well, he's had.
And the answer
Well,
is
they've
no.
had the military
And in
capability.
fact, if it wasn't for the...
Well, what they have done, they've funneled a huge amount of money into propping up terrorist organizations all around the Middle East, all of whom are wedded to the obliteration of Israel, which is America's main ally in the region and has interests. Now, you may not like it, but that's the reality. And so, yes, they represent a threat to one of America's main allies and to Americans who live in Israel, for example, to American service people who work with Israelis. Of course they do.
But you're making the argument that they're not a threat to the United States, they're a threat to Israel. And because we're joined at the hip with Israel, anything that's a threat to Israel is a threat to the United States. I don't buy that argument. I'm an American firster. I care about the U.S. national interest. And it is not in our national interest to have this conflictual relationship with Iran. And if it weren't for the fact that the Israelis have so much power in the United States and insist that we keep Iran as an adversary, we would otherwise have good relations with the Iranians. And again, the Iranians are no threat to the United States, at least not a direct threat.
Every time I have you on the show, and I love having you on, we always have a very robust and interesting conversation. You get a huge reaction from your very sizable army of supporters and from critics who aren't such fans of yours, some of whom have done this mashup of what they claim is your predictions that didn't turn out to be right. Let's take a look.
Russians are doing very well for themselves, and I don't think they're going to invade. Putin is surely smart enough to know that invading Ukraine and owning it would be a prescription for huge trouble. What about the state of Israel? And with regard to the axis of resistance, it's in a long-term war that shows no signs of going away. I don't understand why Trump and company don't understand that Ukraine is going to lose, and it's going to lose reasonably soon. Israel is the big loser. Israel is in really serious trouble today, and there's little hope of getting away from that moving forward. Second, that the Americans are also losers, but the winners are the Iranians. I find it hard to believe that he's going to do anything substantial from a military point of view against Venezuela.
Now, Professor Meerschaum, I put it to you the evidence suggests you're not always right. How do you plead?
Of course, I'm not always right, but I would refute almost all of those excerpts that you took out of context. For example, the argument that he wouldn't
to be fair,
invade...
we didn't take them out of, we didn't do anything. That's just a mashup on the internet.
Okay, well, those are taken out of context, and furthermore, I would defend what I said in most of those cases. Just to take Venezuela, I think that what we did in Venezuela was we did not launch a major military operation against Venezuela. We basically kidnapped the president.
It's a pretty major operation, isn't it? If somebody kidnapped Donald Trump in the White House and took him out of the country in the dead of night with several hundred planes, helicopters, and special forces, I think you would describe it as a major military operation.
Not really. We were talking about bombing Venezuela, or we're talking about invading Venezuela. We were talking about using those military assets that we had arrayed in the Caribbean to launch a major operation on Venezuela. We didn't do that. We simply went in and kidnapped the president.
Well, we did bomb it as well.
At the beginning of the show, we didn't even do regime change.
We did
bomb it. It was a minor bombing operation.
A minor
No, it was a minor bombing operation.
I think every bombing operation.
This was a...
Yeah, every bombing operation in a foreign country.
Piers, you're not letting... After you set me up with that video, you're not letting me defend myself. You're interrupting me at every turn. And you know what this tells me, Piers?
Go on.
You're doing this because I got the better of you in the debate tonight.
My team are telling me in my ear that it was a score draw today, a tie. Let's end with one last prediction from you, because Polymarket, who obviously know where the money goes on these things, there's a $2 million market open with Polymarket asking simply, will the Iranian regime fall before the end of 2027? In November, there was a 15% chance. As we speak, that's risen to 55% chance. And the markets are also showing a whopping 80% chance of US airstrikes before the end of this month. On those 2 points, do you think they're right? Is the money going to the right conclusion?
So what was it? 80% likely?
80% think there'll be airstrikes in Iran before the end of this month, and 55% believe that by the end of 2027, this regime will have fallen.
What are you asking me? Whether those...
Do you agree with those two majority predictions?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that it is likely, more than 50%, that we will use military force against Iran within the next couple of weeks. I can make an argument both ways on the complicated issue. It's not open and shut in favor of military force. And whether or not the regime lasts through 2027, I think it's likely that it will. I think if you look at what's happened with the protests in Iran since late December, the protests are now on the wane. There has been a major reduction in the number of protests, and the government is reasserting control. And I think that tells you that this government is in control in Iran. Is going to be very hard to displace, or it is likely, not certain, that it will be in place by the end of 2027. But again, can I say for sure that that's the case? Absolutely not.
Do you know what I think, Professor Mitchell? I think following that mashup, you've now changed strategy and decided to sound less emphatic about these things.
I don't think that's true at all.
You know what? The world is an unpredictable place. But I like I said, I love talking to you. It's great to have you back on so early in the year. Please come back soon.
Okay, will do. Good talking to you, Piers.
All the best. Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.
He's lying. He's lying. I'm the only one independent. Please like, share, and subscribe. Yes. Tomorrow we'll talk about how who's winning the narrative that Tinubu lobby is working on now. But today, that's one. You don't have no idea what is going on. You just jumping from one headline to another. And a minute. If you don't understand World War One, what led to World War One? Going because events pretty much since people they argue say what has America contributed to the world. Masker, if you did it, I heard you say that. What has the world that we live in is the way it is today by the birth or coming of age of America. Since America getting independent, pretty much that is the one will argue what that is the birth of nation states. And I then really actually take the idea of nation states to the next level. Yes, you can also credit the French Revolution, which happened later on. The French Revolution also pretty much mainstream what the states of French Revolution. They went the force and the idea of how they were able, overthrow, the whole empire. Literally change everything they used to. French used to be, but all those things. You have forces that were going back and forth, 17th century to 18th century. You now understand the role, the idea why socialism is also gaining traction from in New York, London, and much these days. So it also happened in that 18th century World War One, where if the two most popular books then, the Karl Marx and the Communist Manifesto, we are pretty much within that. Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations at the same period with the United States gets independence. So other pieces, right? That those pieces that we are going back and forth, that pressure accumulated to World War One, Then World War One set up World War Two. World War Two, World War, yeah, we had today. So everything still arguing about how if America is going to take over Greenland or not, where they get it at, just because toothled chihuahuas from Europe, the guy that they talk say it will happen. They don't understand what the idea is about. They don't understand history, because nothing what Trump did do new, right? Not just style. It's just players, actors, and technology in 95. The strategy still remain the same. So the U.S. Virgin Island that we know today, previously known as the Danish West Indies, Danish West Indies, also part of Denmark too. So were purchased by the United States from Denmark in 1917. Two years later, maybe World War One, But under President Woodrow Wilson, they negotiated for the land for that part of the now U.S. Virgin Island. 25 million gold purchase were driven by strategic concern. The same reason when they gave driven by strategic concern during World War One, particularly fear that Germany might seize the island if it's overrun. So it was signed on August 4th, 1916, ratified by the US Senate in September 1916, approved via Danish referendum and parliament in December 1916, and ratified by President Woodrow Wilson on January 16, 1917. So if you pay attention to the negotiation that is going on, forget all these noise way people they make. The negotiation currently going on between the two parliaments. So sooner or later, but let's consider so official possession of on March 31st, 1970, transfer day in that territory up to today. So, and no, that was actually not the first attempt. Okay, the earlier attempt to buy the island was in 1867. Civil War was 1863, by the way. Under President Andrew Johnson and Secretary of State William Stewart. William Stewart finally finalized the purchase of Alaska. Or the Secretary of State, just like Rubio is today. So if you fast forward to today, right, Trump don't come back the second time, and he has revived and intensified the pursuit, the idea of acquiring Greenland. There's methods to Trump madness. That's one thing people should also understand, because everything we don't talk about, everybody should go back to the first month in office. Everything that he talked about, either foolishly or however you want to classify it, everything is being acted on or has already been acted on as we speak. So Greenland, for sure, it will become an autonomous territory within the next king. It will take out from the kingdom of the, I don't know why they call that place, kingdom of Denmark. Maybe they only do one again. So what Trump is doing, it's a pretty much what has happened before in American history. So US first attempts to buy that territory from Denmark, like the US Virgin Islands in 1917 under Wilson, but the new high-stake push focused on Greenland rather than the Caribbean island. We'll get to the reason why they actually wanted it. You know that now the same script, all of them they read from. Trump don't frame am as the accusation as the national security priorities to counter threats from Russia and China on the Arctic, citing Greenland strategic location, vast mineral resources, including rare earth, critical for tech and defense, and potential military. So, ongoing between the two governments. So, we will soon hear that that island has been bought and paid for. I think currently they are looking at $700 billion. $700 billion is what they are proposing. Abby, kilo saw. Let me see what you are sawing, what you are saying. Remember when you and me debate this thing, when I tell you, say everything for this world now leverage. When I say Trump won't collect Panama and Nigeria fit as well, collect Bakassi. Also, I once told you. uh, big I say, I don't know where that how Nigeria when they collect Bakassi. That would be interesting. I never I don't know that one. I don't know that one. Which other where they go happen? eh, eh, I don't know why Panama now under the United States already now has been under the influence of the whole territory of the Americas. So I don't know. Maybe you don't know person where they follow you that. But I get your point. Huh? Britain never colonized Nigeria. That's just words. Britain owned Nigeria pre 1960. Yeah, no, no man now. Nigerian to British took over, American took over the Nigeria as a colony from 1960. You know, I argue that anybody with them born, this is you're born under American colony. You're born under American colony. So who is here? History. Remember when I will say I'm not gonna forget. I'll keep referring. Understand Donald Trump administration. You have to go back to the fifth, the 25th president of the United States of America. That was crazy. Saying like bad, nothing. The professor, I mean, that Dr. Emmanuel doesn't know a story where Americans like to talk to ourselves. He goes sweet. I say, okay, now. America is expanding. You need to understand what that means first. America is expanding, right? So those way they say China, like they don't understand exactly how the world works or where China did. China first of all own the sovereignty at this point because that's at stake at the moment. He will need to own his own sovereignty. Everything that he has achieved within the last 40 years is at stake. So people when they actually say they form ally with them, when push comes to shove, they will throw you under the bus. That's exactly what Tinubu, Uncle Tinubu and his friends are going through at the moment. But the beauty of the whole thing is that they're just getting started. They just start. So Donald Trump and Woodrow will share a unique connection in American history. Both presidents pursued the acquisition of Danish territory to enhance U.S. national security. While their goals were similar, their results were very different. Yeah. So both presidents looked to Denmark to expand U.S. territory for strategic military reasons. Wilson successfully purchased the Danish West Indies in 1917. He feared that if Germany occupied Denmark, they will use the island as a submarine base to attack U.S. shipping. Makes sense then. Today, Donald Trump has repeatedly expressed a desire to acquire Greenland from Denmark again. He has cited its strategic location in the Arctic and its vast natural resources as vital for U.S. national security, particularly to counter Russian and Chinese influence. I say history, no, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And the only way it rhymes is because the only thing that changes is the actors and technology. That's it. So in both cases, the transactions were framed as real estate style deal intended to secure the Western hemisphere. The price tag, Wilson paid 25 million in gold, roughly 600 million today, for what are now the US Virgin Islands. Recent estimates suggest a purchase of Greenland today could cost the US upward of billion. So how much those way they suppose when they continue to bomb Nigeria, the fact that the resources will not get that. So if they say me they sell Nigeria, how much? Make I ask them. How much I say Nigeria if Greenland was 700 billion? Somebody goes, how many people in Nigeria? 250 million. So they will share the money accordingly. I mean, that's how some people will reason it. So if Greenland, which as they are saying is 25% of Alaska, biggest 25% more, a bit bigger than Alaska, cost 700 billion. How much now will cost? So nothing will easy like that. Not so just that the European those European chihuahuas, they don't gather themselves, go they dance for as if say if Russia launch one Python dance near Greenland, they don't go take off. Ah, all of them they, they speak from they speak language where they say no fit interpret when the time reach. So even when Wilson wanted to buy the now U.S. Virgin Islands, there was a lot of reluctance to sell too from Denmark people. They initially rejected the idea, but at a point, it become very clear to them. Say, yeah, that seller will take them. So Trump said, Trump's the evil general when he just come on front. Eh, then for where you either sell out, take this offer, take this 220. So let's see how they will do this time around. So the Wilson administration used the threat of the Great War and diplomatic pressure to finalize the deal. Does that mean third world war is here? Ah, and a lot of people don't forget say this thing. Trump don't propose down to themselves in 2019, 2019 during his first time. He just be more aggressive now. Oh man. What a time, man. What a time to be alive. You know. Also we'll live long enough to tell the story of today. However, I want to talk the story of today, man. It go dey funny. Either you come as a comedian or you're serious about it. However, you want just to talk. I just don't see how people go keep straight face. Give you the count of what is happening today across the globe. Trump might just be I just decide not to hide. I decide to say, you know what, this is it. The way Tinubu they come back now, and as soon as Tinubu they land, the story begin change. Eh? We'll talk about that tomorrow. Just like Tinubu lobby is working. Narrative is changing. Abe, you never come tell me how I want to take a Bakassi. Me to Nigeria no hear you. That's to Nigeria's hometown. As well, you want to take back, you have to you have to seek his counsel and get military might to pull it off like Trump is doing. So my followers, look not just there. As I said, just enjoy the show. Okay? Enjoy the show. Americans they know what they are doing. They've been in this business for too long. For anybody to doubt them, that's my doubt them at your own risk at this point. Times have changed. They don't get time, patience to be going back and forth with you. The plan has been laid out before now. So they don't just wake up, begin react. They are not reacting to anything. They know exactly what they are doing. Abe. Anytime Tinubu is in Nigeria, he's on holiday. Look at this guy. Hi, you are finished my country. Eh? Why you go? Why will you allow me to read it out loud? Eh? That's not fair. I mean, how do I even push back? How do I even say, that's not a fact at this point? After all, see those that died, those that died in before early the first 2 weeks of 2026. No, say our president will come back from wherever he went to. Those were they were born within that first week and see that same week. No, they were no. When they born into a country that the president was nowhere to be found. So I get your point. France provides the bunker for his office. People don't get it. Tinubu is mile ahead of his peers. Oh, and this genocide thing, I just I make. I mean, we that's the guy say, okay, how this guy, this is how we Trump don't get that down. How is he gonna pull it off? But the guy come back. A whole New York Times begin change the story. That's brilliance. People don't understand that yet. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But just imagine, because to understand what New York Times did with that story, to actually understand what it meant, is to understand pretty much future events. The next future event that we should all watch out for is World Economic Forum at Davos. Trump is headlining that bitch, man. Trump is fat. He's going with pretty much all of his executive staff, be cabinet, if not all. Majority of them are good. So, very first time since the inception of that thing. Well, other than the Democratic Party, who pretty much lead me to the point I'm trying to make. Tinubu came to power under Democrats. Now, to understand what that means, when on the 20th, when Trump was being sworn in on the 20th of January, this same event, World Economic Forum, started a day after that. That was on 21st, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the theme of that event is that they will look for resources to finance whatever that because they understand what is coming, what the Trump administration is coming to do. I mean, it's going to go after all their XPV. They call on that time during that election when article this thing come out. SPV, special purpose vehicle. What their special purpose vehicle where Democrats, see they will go after it. So, but they say don't worry, we will. But now the two ideologues are coming together under one roof. That's a win for Tinubu. So whatever deal Tinubu pull off, that make even the story to get the way New York Times framer and the Donald Trump administration are saying, yeah, that mean I listened to pretty much all the Ruben Abati and all of them. I'm like, holy shit. So Jagagba now strike a deal. Because I said it should not come back without the deal. If you all remember, yeah, they will talk up since when the day when Trump retired saying go strike again. I jokingly and I was saying that may the guy not come back without the deal, because if he come back without the deal, now bomb will follow and they come. But I think the man lived up to his name, Jagabad. I think he did. I think he made a deal. Congratulations to him. I think. But anyway, I'm still I see the do research on if what I'm seeing is really what happens. By tomorrow we'll talk about that. So Abby, those way they see the now where see the fear, see this no be fear. Say yeah, America empire is just like you know where America empire reach first in the first place. How many people know where the reach of the American empire? America said as is today is in the upward of 80 trillion globally. You know, people they like talk about how the Roman Empire fall, how the Greek Empire fall. Now don't forget that these are the offspring of all those empires that you guys are talking about. Those who go argue say the Roman Empire fall, then you ask them waiting their own state, their system based on the force of natures that you can ascribe to that. So now the offsprings, now the grandchildren, I mean great grandchildren of those empires that fell are still the one doing the same thing. So maybe if you look they're not really fall like that to a point. But that even not even go to that. Let's face the reality of today. The America that we have today has nothing in common with the empire that used to be. There's a reason they demarcate the planet, they dismantle all the empire before, yeah, the kingdoms. Then there was nothing like state. They invented the idea of states. Nobody did to ask why. There's a reason. Easier to control. That's pretty much underpinning the idea of states. Just like the way Nigeria is. If you look how the British people take on, the British people are masters of empires. They conquered the world when the world is still in empire states. America comes to bring their own way to conquer everything, which is the introduction of states and democracy at the center of it. Presidential system preferable. So that's why pretty much the first 10 years or the first 20 years of Nigerian existence was to destroy that which the empire, the British Empire system of governance, regional economy put in place. Cool. Civil war. Millions of people, 3 million at least, because to flip that system. Yes, we can argue the system no dey work for us. Yeah, that's what we are trying to change, but at what cost? Understanding how compromised our leaders are. Yeah, I'm not talking for another day. But better way to understand what is going on is to just enjoy. If you know nobody want to take the pain and patience to go do research, read more about the past. I think it is a Churchill, Winston Churchill, that says that to know about today, you have to go far to understand yesterday. Go beyond even times before you were born. That's the only way you can understand today. The same goes to all these moves that the Americans are making. It is a script that's already been out there that they are playing out. Nothing new. It's just been. I don't even know why people are surprised because they prepare us for this everything taking place live. I don't know why people are shocked. You see Trump do this, Trump do this. When they see people being shot on camera live, that don't numb us. Those are process to numb the society. So when Trump did, even a kid that go kill me do that and say life, nothing go. And I ask the same. We all got over it. Nothing go happen. After all, Charlie Clark was shot like our like life. Then streamer, people celebrated. As crazy as that sounds. So all these things, I don't know why people they overreact to how Trump they dramatize his presidency. And normal, we've been prepared for all this. After all, we don't need to go gather for one cinema or to hear news. We don't need to wait for 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, anyhow to hear news. Everybody, we go there anywhere we do. The news is in our palms. So what's the point? So they don't write the script before now. They don't rehearse. So what you are seeing is just acting it out. And so they go watch history movie before now. What one history? Everyone will gather for cinema or radio. They watch that. These days we go just see everybody will just sit down for a comfort zone. They sip tea, they drink beer, they smoke it good. Just they look up. they see action as they take place. So they don't prepare us from TV to internet now. A live stream really happen. Life. So no be mistake. I don't know why people can't just put one or two things together. That everything we consume in sense of information. Now them they put up our head. That alone should just make you pause for a minute. They don't want to make you hear out, you know, hear. They don't want to make you know, you know, go know. You know everything where they see so just like Bob Marley if you talk out. You only know what they touch you, but if you went for that to say they think they only know what with them because you have to go and emancipate yourself mentally. Because most things now are common sense. Because as it they happen, believe me, yes, that's exactly what is happening. It's not be fake. Even though, and in order for them to actually dilute, make everything so blurry, make us so don't even they deluded about everything. Let's come by AI so that we will argue. Nah, nothing no be real. That's it. Like because just imagine say the what they did in Venezuela fail. Or then no one make we even know say they carry the man said they will just say na fake. Than an AI video. And every day they go they bring AI video when we do they talk to the country. Right? Before if they tell us the history, or if we read the history, even up to today, or if we watch the history, then we're gonna argue say, no lie. This will now because it happened live, right? We no go fit they argue like that so it happen. They have to make sure they create another visual reality to bring that same argument. No, it's real or it's not real. That's why when things they happen like this, Trump will tell say he won't do this, or people will tell say they pay. Like, yo, this man just does it. And not even waiting they do say anything that they pay attention to, there's a reason why. And all you need to do, forget about how you frame it. Another thing that actually we need to talk about is what is happening in Minnesota. Especially those who are with the American. What is happening in Minnesota? Right? Even though they put the Somalians at the center, at the scapegoats and all that kind of a thing. But if you live in this country, the way this country run, there's no way you figure out any scam where they no go know. And if they allow it continue, that is because now waiting they won't be that. Special purpose vehicle for them too. Billions of dollars were funneled through Minnesota in the name of Somalia. Now that they frame out for Somalia, no, if it just work like that. Thank God the understanding that the government is pretty much and that goes pretty much all the fucking country. Across your state. So there's so many things that is happening at the same time. All you need to do is once this man say this thing, just literally pay attention. Forget about how he frame out. Something is happening. Now they are trying to tell us even the genocide story now, it's not coming from authentic source. But government come out admit say yes, now then even the citizens will agree that at least something is happening. Again, there's method to the madness. Greenland, go. Part of Canada, go. People they teasing now. Not just because Trump say, the whole country, the whole Canada will become 50, part of Americans will become no. Part of Canada will be annexed. Life, they go join America. It might not be under Trump, but we go see how. Life. Within the next 10 to 15 years, it will happen. Countries expanding again. Nobody say that they decline. They have to frame it like that so that the people will buy into it. And be loyal to the system again. And be patriotic again. Put blood, money, and sweat. Rearrange the society in the attempt of doing that. And set out. So the next 80 to 100 years is what you are seeing. Is the foundation that is being put in place. So that's exactly what happened in the 30s, in the early 20s. Led to depression. Everybody say, but they will say, oh, people they always argue half, not even half the issue of what happened. They would say, oh, this is exactly how America went into depression in the 20s. Yes, the story no stop there like that. What happened next? They bounced back. Finish, went into Second World War 20 years later. Came out victoriously and dominated the planet ever since then. Oh, China did it. Japan rose too. Japan's were, in fact, Japan, nobody has a Chinese, they primitive. They try to disguise that they're not interested in conquering the world. They're not interested in. Japanese were out fiercely, taking territories. America say, hell no, not under our watch. What's their story? So they don't they here before. They've been here over and over again. And they come out victoriously. Sorry. Maybe you don't write plenty many things. Maybe you still bow. Now you sabi why Canada they beg people make them come their country. It's called human ship. Guy. I don't think that one. Oh yeah, you have a point. Canada. See, I just pity people where they go China way. I admire their bravery, you know. In fact, kudos. I just hope they are ready. No, Canada will go. Part of Canada will become America. People don't get it. People say, see, we were them born after the Second World War. Now we think say the war was just all gloomy, all rosy, all sweet, all but this is what the war be before. No. It wasn't. In fact, you have to credit the United States of America, especially the European nation. Those that live in Europe. This is the safest they've ever been. This is the most prosperous they've ever been. This is the best life they've ever lived within the last 80 years. And guess what? They hold that to United States of America. That's what America can afford to do whatever the fuck he's doing today. They know they see eye to eye before. Poverty they key there. It is the coming of age of America that shield them, as according to Abbey, and shield all their conquests around Africa. Why France? Why France not if you do anyhow again? When America does it come, we ain't got your back no more. None of them, all these countries, none of them. I don't if you do anything. Only go finish all of them one by one. If not the fact that America shield them to go be stealing everywhere around the world. So it's on now. Brazil said, oh God. Hey, we never had anything for anything to happen to Brazil. The way that they hit them. Brazil and India. I think will be the biggest loser. They stand the chance to be the biggest winner too. But Shantaraboko Sintapa Shata Katapa Yata. If they fuck up the way they see them, the way they go back to They will, this enjoyment whether they enjoy so they you go now dream they go they dream of am if they fuck up. The same thing with us too, Nigeria. Ah, those men misbehave. They go bomb us to 1932. Ah. So anybody will tell you say Americans are they don't Donald Trump led government don't know what they are doing. They. Only believe them all. Don't I warn you. Don't. These people they are not fucking around at the time. Bible says there's time for everything. Everything what they say they will do, believe them. They will do life. And I don't know. It's not about it has little or nothing to do with Trump. People they wait to make Democrat come to power before things go change. Remember that bust your bubble. They ain't coming to power anytime soon. Trump is coming back again, 2028 again. Then after him, somebody the Republicans will still come to power again. At least the next 3 elections, I don't see Democrat coming close to power. That time, people will know, say, okay, this is it. This is our life now. This is how it's going to be. We go see what you go happen for midterm. Those with the America, you know what I mean? The election that is coming up. You'll see. Because they have one thing, they have succeeded in selling to the American people that the time is up. China, there's no way China is coming to take over. China don't take over. And it is beautiful. Like the way they achieved that within just under 2 years. To let pretty much the whole world believe that yes, China will destroy America. It's all right. It's a good play. It's a fucking. If there's anything one should respect or learn about this country, is their marketing fucking skill. How they brand the country called America, the United States. The marketing that is behind that brand is top notch. They know how to do things. The American planners are fucking to be studied. They know how to do things. Like literally everywhere you go, they say, China don't kill America, finish. China don't win. China don't take over. Winning what? Who did they fight in the first place? Greenland is not for today, not tomorrow. They were looking at Greenland from the way it used to be when the Vikings took over that island. It used to be green. That's why they call it Greenland. See, green was a normal, just like this Sahara Desert used to be, right? That's how Greenland used to be. Green, not just nature and pursue those people come making like that. Now they have seen that it's coming back to the way it used to be. And that would be not just be the center of navigation, but other resources. Because after the snows don't melt and everything. So it's not even about today. As I said, the next 100 years of our life is just being defined, it's been set. And every year they shout, Jagaban, Jagaban, Jagaban. So, if you don't believe what is happening, that Americans are making mistakes, or Trump is a clown, I don't argue. I don't disagree with you. I totally agree. Because, oh well, in 1984, pretty much painted picture. I mean, that's pretty much the center argument between Orwell and the Brave New World. Huxley. There'll be a big brother somewhere that will be dictating things. That even the most dangerous things in the society is not even going to be bomb or weapon anymore, but pleasure. And if you look at it from the angles of abundance, what is coming to be abundance? And to who? And on one angle, they are preaching, you will own nothing and you'll be happy. Make it make sense. Elon Musk talking about a billion robots going to be in our midst between the next 4 years. I don't know, but people just cannot comprehend what that means. If you live in city like Austin, Texas, San Francisco, you understand that when you hear say autonomous vehicle day is different from actually seeing it. We don't hear about it now that it's normal, but when you see them, not that you will shock or you'll be marvel at the engineering and no. Instantly you begin to say, come, how long will it take before every vehicle on the street be autonomous? Now, not just car. So the idea of sales girls, sales rep, literally, you know, go to see people for street again. That's exactly what it's coming. Because what you they go do for outside, literally something else is taking care of you. Unless, I don't know. But the things that are coming, people just can't fathom it. Yeah, that's why they see the cut of argument that America is declining, China is winning. No. Maybe that because I imagine they walk up and down. Now make me they see. Because the reality on ground is fucking far different from what if you go online, what we talk about. In terms of the kind of change that is here. And the is coming that is here. Anyway. If Trump collects third term, rest assured, Tinubu said go collect third term. No. I first agree with you, but no. Why? Because age no day inside. Age no day inside. And two, it's too Nigeria. We are too in the height of the storm. We are a hosting nation for the Third World War. So that Tinubu done. It was a young person that for say yes. It's too old for a country like Nigeria to succeed. Like third time. And that will be small country. The interest is with they go kill just like America. They'll kill you straight. So it no go work. In that vein, what I am saying, what me they see is along the turn by turn rhetoric. This turn by turn. The North will do 3 times in power at a row on a stretch consecutively after Tinubu. Now, this I could be wrong. This is what I foresee coming. Tinubu go hand over to Atiku in 2031. Atiku can only do 4 years because he don't old. They won't just convert. They won't just pay him because he has done well for the North. He's been holding that. If not be Atiku, it'll be for don't clear election. Either 2020 or 2027. But with Atiku, that doesn't happen. Maybe if you just come tell us, okay, you've done enough. You've been around, done the Tijo, you've done, we'll give you 4 years. You go down old. Then they will bring a younger person to come and finish his four term, the remaining 4 term. That's where what you are saying will not happen. I see that. I see that. But not Tinubu. Tinubu is not Tinubu, as I said, Tinubu is to say he's the younger. I agree. Tinubu, they go kill him. They go use the Nigerian power calculation is not something that one should take for granted. It's very complicated. Men that who control power in Nigeria, the interest, not be here. Nigeria is a big country because people see fit to understand. They know they factor that into conversation. We are 200 million. We are big. That's big. A very few country big past us. And we are big in a way that we have 3 big nations within that are fighting for power. So it'll be it's very hard for you to go against the gentleman agreement and succeed. It's very hard. I'm not saying it's impossible, but Tinubu is not. Tinubu can't stand it. It's too old. I just one reason. It's too old. Age not the inside. You can do it in another 4 years successfully and go. Well, anything outside that, it's asking for his early. Just look at his friend now. Buhari, to say Buhari, they say what. They don't try. Those men have been in there. They don't. Do you know what it takes to they hide something for 40 years or more? People like themselves, maybe they don't date politics when they're in 30s, and this man they don't reach 80 plus. I mean, so is they're not the Nigeria no small like Cameroon or all those countries where their president they stay for many years. Maybe say now only 2 family, 3 family will come together, they control things, and then we go start. That's what Cameroon is about. I just 1 or 2 families have a deal with the outside power and shit just go smoothly. Nigeria is bigger than that, and it's too complicated for that kind. For Bola Tinubu to convince people, because you are convincing, you are telling people to put their own interest on you when you are fragile. That's a very risky investment. It's very risky. They won't do that because anything can happen at that age. Anything can happen. So, in Nigeria, if you are not responding, I was surprised he was able to even stay away from Nigeria for this long. But again, what is at stake? It involves all of them. Not be saying now only him now. So I could understand why they were able to, control the narrative, away from him for that long. But Obasanjo will say is the younger said during his day tried. He tried. It is the outside power no go like him. They go like it, they go succeed. Make it they go smoothly. Nothing concern them. But the Nigerian local power brokers are guy. All those old men where they see the real whether don't take them for a ride or they know something. They can do something. Doing some things. They can do more. Now you sabi. I won't close before. See, since you there, what could they gist? What could they gist? You say you sabi how it is the work. So